The 2025 updated BFS budget tier list starts now.
Yep, we're on. We are on.
All right, welcome to the 2025 update of the budget BFS tier list. Had a few people ask about it, comment on the old list. There's been a ton of reels come out as of late. I've got about 12 new reels to add to the list. And also we're gonna make a couple of changes. Firstly, I wanna just give you an update on the channel, what I've got planned in the pipeline. I bought the 2.1 meter MeFine microbite in the casting version. So I have the casting and spinning version. And I'm going to definitely be doing a cast testing video, spinning versus casting, probably three spinning reels, 3 different ones, just so we get a bit of a different idea on, what casts better, and then 3 BFS reels to see what is up with that. So really looking forward to that. Also, I want to do this underwater filming test. I got sent a underwater camera not too long ago. And I think a great idea would be to do a video about scent. Now, I've got an idea where I'm gonna put 5 different popular scents on some sort of board, maybe that's suspended below the water. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna suspend the camera on top of it and see what fish are attracted to it and what, that type of thing. But yeah, that's coming up in the future. Anyway, on to the tier list. All right, so we've got 12 additional reels to add. There's been tons of DC reels come out on the market, like super cheap stuff, cheap stuff. And yeah, some pretty interesting things coming out. First, what I want to do, I want to make some amendments to my previous list here. If you haven't seen this, go back and see it. I talk for, I don't know how long, 40 minutes going over all these reels. I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to be talking about the new additions and some little changes that I'm going to make. Okay, so the Anatono Silver Rhino, if we can find it on here, that was an absolutely really incredible value for money reel. I think that is the BFS budget king right now. I hadn't tested it at the time of this particular tier list, but I was just going based on sort of what I've heard and that type of thing. So I'm going to be, definitely bumping it up if I can find it in this list here. There it is right here. It's in the B tier. I'm going to be bumping it up into A tier. It's incredible value, and performance wise, it casts really good. Like, it's not too far off the High Star Aurora Air, which I think is my best caster of 2 grams. I think it's an awesome value for money reel. So it's going up into the A tier. Also here, I see I've got the Cast XZ in the B tier. I'm going to be dropping that down to better options. There are quite a few reels in that sort of price point right now. Some of the new ones we're going to look at. So I don't think that's necessarily B tier. I think we're going to be dropping that down to better options. I think the Black Knight 2 here, it's always been a little bit expensive. It's never really come down in price. I'm sort of tempted. Unless you're into the aesthetics, I don't think I would buy this one. There are definitely better options. I'm going to be putting that into the better options category. Also, the FF01 Kingfisher here. It's definitely a great reel. I personally haven't used it, but I think it is a little bit disrespectful to have it in the B tier, even though this tier list was sort of based on price as well. Like, I definitely took value for money into consideration. So I'm going to be bumping that up into the A tier. And we've got the Solo King Acura in S tier. I'm probably going to put it down into B tier. Can we do that? I don't know why it's not moving. Everything else seems to move, but the S tier ones are not moving for some reason. Anyway, we'll just leave it at that because I think the Anatono Silver Rhino is a better reel and it is a cheaper reel. So that is that. All right, onto this list. We've got a ton of different reels here. Kind of hard to remember what they all are. I've got some notes written down. So we're going to first start off with the CISO Cast Pro. It is 70 Australian dollars. It's 11+1 bearings, 6 kgs of drag. It's got a medium depth spool, carbon body, full ceramic bearings, which is a little bit different. Usually they're hybrid ceramics or stainless steel bearings. And the spool only weighs 5.1 grams, but it is a little bit of a deeper spool. I say this is a solid reel. It feels like good quality. Smoothness is probably a little bit above average. My only gripe with this particular one is that the spool isn't really shallow enough. So if you're fishing for bass or something, maybe if you're running mono, or you're, want to fish on a longer rod like saltwater, have a bit more line, maybe this could be a good option. But yeah, I think this reel is, I gotta find it in this list here. It is the Cast Pro. This is going to get easier and easier as the list goes on because there's going to be less down here. But it is this one right here. And I'm going to put that into the B tier. Next one is the Mavlos Resolute. So this is a new reel. It does seem very similar to the Cast Pro, but maybe not quite as spec'd up. This one is slightly cheaper, 62 Australian dollars, so about 10% or so cheaper than the Cast Pro. It's got 9+1 bearings, 4 kgs of drag. It weighs 144 grams, carbon frames, got mag tracks, and hybrid ceramic bearings. Yeah, so I think because this list is going to be updated again in the future, I want to try and, put all of the reels on there. And then as time goes on, we can make some adjustments like we did at the start of this video. So I'm going to be putting that one into the B tier, or floating with the better options category, but we don't know. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt. I believe it is this one here. We're going to be putting that into the B tier. CISO 0VX. So that is this bad boy right here. It is 6+1 bearings, 4 kgs of drag, 133 grams, a deeper spool, just like the Cast Pro. Doesn't feel as smooth as the Cast Pro. Probably doesn't cast as light as the Cast Pro. I'd say the Cast Pro, like, really, if you're being honest, it's like a 3 gram and up kind of reel. Whereas this was being, say, like a 4 gram and up kind of reel. Not exactly a BFS reel. You could say it's power BFS or whatever. But I think I'm going to put that into the better options category based on some of the other reels we've got on this list. The next Angler Alpha Neo. So that is this one right here. Now, I actually got this one just a few days ago. It's only, what's the price here? 32 Australian dollars. So very cheap. One of the cheapest reels on this list. Went out and tested it today. Put it on the Pure Lure Zero, the longer rod, the 7.6 rod. Did some long casts with, I think I had a 1/6 of an ounce jig head and a soft plastic on, so whatever that weighs. It actually casts really good. The only downside I would say about this reel, and we're going to take into consideration, this is a $32 reel. The only thing that I could really nitpick on it is that, it doesn't feel the smoothest, but it's actually got quite low resistance. But it's $32. Like, it's not something that should bother you for that price point. And I think it casts really well, and the braking is quite good on it. Like, I had it dialed around, I think 7 out of 10 on the brake dial, and yeah, I was bombing some pretty good casts. It has a bigger spool, deeper spool. Only had 100 meters of 0.06 on it, so quite underfilled for that type of spool. But I think it's a great reel so far, and I'm going to put it into the B category. Next one we've got on the list, the Semrio Phantom. If we can find this on here, there it is there. Semrio Phantom, it comes in at $27. So this is just about the cheapest reel on the list. Have tested this reel and used it, a fair amount. It does cast very well. The sort of, 2-3 grams. It's definitely capable of it. The spool is really light. I know of 2 people that have had this reel, and the plastic mechanism for the drag clicker has snapped, and then there would just be no drag clicker. So that being said, it's super cheap. It casts quite light. It feels relatively good for its price point, but just based on the only 2 other people that I know that have that reel had the same problem with the drag clicker issue. I'm going to put this in the don't buy category. Next one on the list is the Sileus Ash Moon, which is this bad boy here. Recently reviewed this reel, a little bit more of an expensive reel for, you know, CDM standards. Not quite flight feather type prices, but it's about 100 Australian dollars. It comes in different spool ratios, gear ratios, and spool size options. So there is some versatility there. It's definitely what I'd consider a power BFS reel, or, you know, just a general bait caster. I wouldn't say it is a, you know, you wouldn't be using it for trout, for example, although, you know, you could, but if you're casting light stuff in a stream, I definitely would say there's better options. But the build quality and the smoothness is absolutely top notch. I'm going to be putting this into the A category. Now, that is based on whether or not this reel suits your needs. So, you know, do your homework. If, you know, a slightly deeper spool is going to suit you, if you're going to be casting, say, 5 grams and up or whatever, although this could probably cast 3 grams quite well. But yeah, if you're casting sort of a little bit heavier, then this is definitely a good option. It feels very smooth. The next one is a new reel, the Flight Feather SFS, which is this bad boy here. This one comes in at 400 Australian dollars. So obviously it isn't a budget reel, but it is a CDM reel. So that's what we mainly focus on. Now, this one is pretty much, I would say, you know, it's got to be the pinnacle, this one and the cormorant here of the, you know, the CDM reels. It has a 2.7 gram spool. It's 11 plus 1 ball bearings and 137 grams. So it is a little bit heavier than the cormorant and the kingfisher. There isn't actually much information on AliExpress about this reel, which is a bit of a shame. But I can only assume that it has an aluminium body and or frame and not a carbon fiber frame, and perhaps that's the reason why it is a little bit heavier. So, you know, perhaps it's something that's a little more rigid and a little, I don't know if it's going to last longer. You know, it's hard to really say, but you know, you've got that peace of mind that it is a more solid reel than, say, the cormorant. So because this is, you know, a top tier reel, I think it deserves to go into S tier. Right, next we have the Anatono Starfall DC reel. So this is the first one of this on this list of the many DC reels that have came out as of late. This one is $53. So I think it's just about the cheapest DC reel out there. What have we got notes wise? Yeah, basically, I don't know too much about this reel. If we assume it's going to be similar quality to the Anatono Silver Rhino, being the same brand, I think it's going to be quite a good reel. But, you know, $53, I think it's kind of, you know, if it is the quality of the other one, obviously it's going to be fantastic, but I do have my doubts, but until we test it, we won't know. But yeah, for those that don't know about DC reels, we're going to talk about them a bit. This DC reels are basically digitally controlled braking systems. They've got a little chip in there. The braking, you know, adjusts based on the speed of the spool, so it's, you know, more dynamic in a way. So yeah, generally DC reels are really forgiving and especially good for beginners. Less overruns, backlashes, that type of thing. So let's just whack that into the B category for now. It does have a medium depth spool that's 11.4 grams, and it's got a lure casting rating of 5 to 20 grams. It's 6+1 ball bearings, nylon frame and body with a metal handle. So it's, you know, a little bit of a heavier, cheaper built reel, but it's a cheaper price. So yeah, I'd say that this is, you know, maybe it's worth a gamble, but it's probably a more power BFS reel. All right, so the next one on the list is the Bear King Yuri DC reel. Now, this is a pretty cool looking low profile reel. Obviously the graphics, you know, on the advertising make it look kind of cool with these sort of like stars and everything like that. Purple spool, purple pencil knobs, which are not everybody's kettle of fish. $55, so it's very cheap. Bear King is usually quite solid. It does look very cool, but it is only a 5+1 bearing reel. It's a little bit heavy, 158 grams. Yeah, I can't really say if I would prefer that over the Starfall reel. You know, it looks cool, but that's probably kind of where it stops. Like, I don't know if it's really worth the risk. It's really hard to say. Until we know, I'm just going to put it into B tier. Next one is the Takuma P1 DC. Now this is $83, so it's, you know, competitive with the DMK Cheetah kind of price point. But I think it definitely suits a different audience. It's a little bit of a heavier reel. It's 185 grams, has a larger diameter, wider spool, and it's also got a metal handle, 6+1 bearings, and yeah, and 5 kgs of drag. I definitely say it's more of a power BFS reel. Again, you know, if you're running mono or you're wanting some more line capacity, that type of thing, I definitely wouldn't say it's a BFS reel. But I'm not going to say it's any worse than what the Yuri would be, although it's $83 and the specs don't look particularly good. So for now, I'm going to put it into the better options tier. Okay, the Caesar D-Cast. So Caesar have a couple of DC reels. The D-Cast is a little bit of a bigger reel, $80. It's another one that's similar to the previous one we just spoke about. It's got a 5 to 25 gram casting weight recommendation. It weighs 190 grams, so it's definitely a heavier reel. 7+1 ball bearings, 8.5 kgs of drag. So this is sort of a different reel for kind of like, you know, a different sort of niche. Like if you're really wanting that 8.5 kilos of drag, if you're fishing for bigger species like, I don't know, snakehead or, you know, Australian native species, Murray cod or whatever, then this could be a better option over the other ones. But, you know, as far as BFS fishing and sort of like power BFS fishing, I think that the other Caesar option is better. So I'm going to be putting that into the better options category for now. And, you know, maybe we'll hear some feedback in the future. I don't think I'm going to be getting this reel, so I don't know if I'll be having any personal opinions on it, but we might find out and we will update the tier list as needed. The next one is a little bit more juicy, I would say. I've just noticed there's a couple of doubles here for some reason. I imported, I selected all and hit import and it's got doubles for some reason. That's why there's more than 12. It's the Caesar, what are we calling this one? The Caesar DCT. So this is another Caesar DC reel, $85. So similar kind of price point as a couple of the other ones. 6+1 bearings, 158 grams, 5 kgs of drag. And this one is actually rated for 2 to 20 grams casting. So it is a little bit more of a lighter caster. So maybe more competitive with the DMK Cheetah or the, you know, the Silver Feather DC, that type of thing. I don't know if it's going to be as smooth or anything like that, but the spool, it isn't super shallow. It must have something to do with the DC system, why all these DC reels have a medium depth spool. Probably a lot of them are just coming out of the same factory with the same DC braking module, so they would have to have sort of like the same spool to go with that. Although I've seen some are ported and some are not and stuff, so I guess they could make modifications to the spool to get the weight down. It's hard to say whether whether this would be really much better than the previous reel other than the lighter casting. I'm gonna put it in the B tier. I'm definitely gonna say I would trust it over this Yuri and over this. So I'm gonna just whack it there for now, but time will tell. The Lufashi DC reel. Now this is, you might have seen this black one. It's got the little cat kind of, what do you call it? You know, a humanoid cat. that's holding a fish, or that's what it looks like to me. Now, the only reviews I've seen on this is from Ricardo Review, and it seemed a little bit negative, to be honest. I'm not saying the video was negative. I'm saying the sort of performance of the reel didn't really live up to what I was hoping for this kind of price point. So it's $75, so it's not cheap as, you know, the Yuri, for example. But it weighs 160 grams. It's got a claimed 3.5 to 20 grams casting weight. And it does kind of remind me a bit of the Semrio reels, that particular button. So that doesn't really instill a lot of confidence as well. I'm definitely going to say, with all the other sort of DC options and that type of thing, I'm going to put it into, it's definitely going at least into the better options category. I'm going to put it into the don't buy category. I don't think it's worth the risk. Considering Ricardo's review on it, I would, you know, spend a little bit more or whatever and get something else. I don't think that that is the greatest option. So I'm going to say don't buy it. All right, now what did you think of the tier list? If I've forgotten any reels, please drop it down in the comments below. Obviously, I haven't personally tested all of these reels. A lot of these are based on opinions from other videos, articles, Facebook comments that I've seen, and sometimes just looking at the specs and the price and making an opinion. What would you like to see in the next BFS tier list video? I'm thinking about maybe making a few changes and going over every single reel top to bottom so that we have a comprehensive list that'll probably drop at the start of 2026. Anyway, guys, hit the comment and the likes, and I'll see you in the next video.